Welcome to Groovin' with the Girls. My name is Ella.
And my name is Lily. Today we are talking about emotions, personalities, and how society affects them.
There are many different ways to express these emotions in different parts of ourselves. You can do artwork, poetry, music, writing, and much more.
Both of us have created poems to show many parts of ourselves, and we'd like to share them with you guys. Our poems don't have a name yet, so if any of you guys have an idea, DM us on Instagram. Alright, let's get into it.
So, my poem is, all these people watching every single move we make can stop and hesitate without them thinking we're gonna break. We're at this age where we don't know where we fit in. All of society and culture wants us to give in. Not be our true selves, the ones we are when nobody's watching. Not break this rule of these pins society's got us trapped in. If we stumble and we fall, they call us weak. They start to call us names. Get up, you freak. We're too young to make any decisions, but too old to watch and listen. I just hope one day we can all say our emotions are not a cliche. Lily, let's hear your poem.
Okay. Shoulders back, eyes forward, trying to stay strong, holding up a metal wall, hoping for nothing to go wrong. Looking through a window at a reflection of yourself, is it truly who you want to be, or are you just showing what others want to see? You dress too fancy and people call you fake. Society's rules are ones that we make. You dress too casual and people say we don't try, even though we may just be shy. Trying to express ourselves in a world that may not feel like our own, slowly climbing up and falling down a societal throne. We hit rock bottom, searching for someone's hand to lift us up and be with us to try again. Society's rules are ones that we make, but when we hold up our head and be ourselves, one day they will break.
So, Lily, what is your poem all about?
So my poem is about just being yourself. Society, sometimes we have the perception, just people in general have the perception that society has like the specific like person that you have to be. And like when you maybe try to fit into that mold, like Ella had said in her poem, like there's a mold that sometimes we see in society. And like when you dress too fancy, sometimes like people will call you fake even though you're just really trying to fit in. So my poem's really about like I guess the struggle of trying to fit in even though you just need to try to be yourself, because these are rules like in society that we have made. They're not just there. So like people acting and falling into these molds have created society's rules, like society's rules in quotes. So like whenever we hold up our head and just be ourselves, one day these rules will break and everyone can just be who they actually are.
Yeah, I totally get that. I feel most of what you said every day. Both of our poems kind of go along together, and I think that's great.
Yeah, it's really cool how two different people, we're somewhat different, but how two different people feel the same way.
Yeah, and I'm sure many other people feel the same way as well. So now we're going to go into the quote of the week. What is it, Lily?
Like the lotus flower that is born out of the mud, we must honor the darkest parts of ourselves and the most painful of our life experiences, because they are what allows us to birth our most beautiful self. Debbie Ford.
That is so good.
Yeah.
One word that popped out to me in that quote is our most beautiful self. And our most beautiful selves contain all of our different personalities and interests. So we thought it might be cool to share what our different personalities are and what they might look like in everyday life.
So some of my personalities, I would say that one of my top personalities would be artistic. One reason I feel like I really like this personality is it gives me an outlet to be creative and just be myself during stressful times. Like especially during quarantine. I'm not sick, but just during COVID-19 when I've been staying at home, I find myself leaning towards sewing or drawing to take my mind off of like what is happening in the world. So yeah, being artistic, it really helps me, and it gives, like I said, an outlet where I can just express myself.
Yeah, a happy place.
Yes, a happy place. So another personality I would say that I had would be a perfectionist. I'm definitely try to make things like as perfect as they can be, which can both help me and can also harm me. In sixth grade, I had a math sheet one night, and it was one sheet, like front page and back, maybe, I'm not quite sure. And it literally took me like 3 hours to finish. And I remember I got home at like 4 o'clock. I started working on it, and I got done at like 7:30. And so it got so bad to where I had to talk to my teacher, like, and she said, like, you'll only have an hour to work on homework, and even if you don't finish it, it's fine. Because I was just like, I had to check over things several times, and it was just really bad. But it's helpful when it comes to projects because it ends up me putting my best foot forward and just, I guess, giving my all in what I know that I can do. So,
Yeah, I totally get that. One of the personalities that I think I have is probably my independence. I like doing a task by myself, unless it's like with close friends that knows the way that I work and the way that I understand things. So then it doesn't get too complicated because I like doing things like very so. Like I want everything done in a certain way. It's it also goes kind of along with me being driven, and I try to take the lead in projects with other people and get things done efficiently in a timely manner. Because if I have 3 days to get a project done, I don't want to be doing a majority of the project the last day. I want to have it all done by Tuesday or the second day, and then doing the final touches the third day. So I just have to do everything timely and efficiently. Yeah.
yeah, those are definitely really important to have in everyday life, especially as we're getting older and we have more responsibility, either if it's high school or athletics. It's really important to like not doing most of what you need to do the last day that it's due, or like right before a match, like don't prep like right before it. Like you got to work up to it. And it's really important to have that time management, which
Yeah.
is,
If you put everything off to the last minute, you'll be behind in so many different things.
yeah. These personalities that we have affect the way we think and become different voices that tell us what to do and affect our thoughts.
So we all have our own unique set of personalities, our unique set of these voices in our heads, these different adjectives and stuff. But sometimes we end up conforming our personalities to fit the mold of society into a person that's not ourselves.
Yes, and I part of that too is like turning into a paper person or like a part of a paper town. Like where you're this age or just this person, you have to fit in, and you end up turning into something like a paper town where everyone just fits into something that is built to fall apart. So that kind of leads into the book by Paper Town by John Green. I recommend if you guys like kind of that whole like, I guess like it's almost like an adventure novel, but it has a whole deep meaning about not just becoming the person that people want you to be.
Yeah, John Green is such a good author.
Yes, definitely.
So, society often speaks to us through many different platforms, through many different things, whether it's from friends at school and being just talking with them, or through social media. It's like they're feeding voices into our heads. And on social media, especially Instagram, like everything on there is so perfect. And
Mm-hmm.
there's certain, and you see it for all age types, but there's always a certain person everybody looks up to. And everybody ends up looking the same on there. And I know like everybody's trying to be their own person and like being unique. And there is different groups, but it's like everybody wants to be perfect on those platforms.
It's the side of you that everyone wants to see, trying to make yourself more appealing to others. It tends to be on social media. All you see is people like, I guess, quote unquote, not natural. Not saying that there's people that aren't like that, but most of the time, like all you're seeing is just like the good. Like people share their vacations, but they never really share, like maybe when they're not having a good day or stuff like that.
We have been talking about being authentic in yourself on social media, but this does not by any means mean that we are perfect at doing this. We struggle with this too. There are some things we do not post because we're not confident in these videos or pictures.
We are bringing attention to our own faults because we know it is something we need to work on and change in our own lives. We hope that this step that we are taking will inspire you to do something similar. Um, so again, like making yourself more appealing to others or what you think other people would like you to see. The people in your lives, though, try like on Instagram or something, if there's someone who may post something that makes you feel like that you're not good enough or like you wish you would be more like them, take that like with a grain of salt and like really realize that like just be you for yourself. The people who are in your life, they need to like you for you. So just know that.
This perception of society that I had in my head is really based off of the voices in my head that are telling me I'm not good enough. The voices telling me you should be dressing more like them. The voices telling me you shouldn't be wearing glasses and braces at the same time. It and I just really want to raise this question because I think it's a really good one. It's, does society really say we can't do things? Or is it something we say to ourselves?
So if it's just something we say to ourselves, why do we say these things when it's not something we would say to others or our friends? We need to know that the negative thoughts in our head, they can be very toxic to like self-confidence and just who you are. So you need to know that why would you say these things to yourself, these mean things, when you wouldn't even say them to someone else? So we talked to my mom, who is a marriage and family therapist, about the negative voices in our head. She offers some good ideas of how to change these voices, including noticing that they are there.
One of the first ways to change the voices in our head, or at least to soften them and make them kinder, is to first notice. Notice like what it is that we're saying to ourselves. When you're doing something and then all of a sudden you mess up and you say, "Oh, I'm so stupid." Like noticing like, "Oh, I just called myself stupid." Would I say that to my best friend, or would I say that to a friend that was struggling with something? "Oh, you're so stupid." No, we would never say that, right? So first just noticing the things that we say to ourselves. And then after we've done that for a while, a few days or a day or two, figuring out like what kinds of things can we say that soften that and make it more like something that we might say to a friend who is struggling. And so even sometimes it's helpful just to come up with some things that you'd say to yourself when you're struggling. You could write them down on note cards and keep them and read them. You could write it on Post-it notes and put it up on your mirror as words of encouragement when you're feeling challenged, or knowing that like when you're getting ready in the morning, you might sit there and say, "Oh, my hair looks like crap today," or "my hair," or whatever, or "Oh, look at this zit on my face, like yuck." What are some things that you could say to yourself instead of that?
She also talks about social media and some ways to make sure they are not feeding the mean voices in our head.
So social media can be a place that grows and adds some fire to those negative voices in our heads. So it's important to think about that. What stuff am I looking at on my feed? Is it stuff that's empowering me and making me feel better about myself, or is it stuff that's bringing me down? So another maybe tool that you could use would be periodically going through your feed and thinking like, maybe I'm just going to unfollow this person or this organization, or put them on snooze for a while, or silent them for a while, if they're contributing to those negative voices in your head, and really sort of adding some energy and fuel to that. So really, just sort of in conclusion, is to really look at and notice, be mindful, pay attention to those things that you're saying to yourself, and figure out how to create a softer voice, a voice that you might use when speaking to a friend, and turning that voice back onto yourself.
We hope you guys found this helpful, and we encourage you to start to use these steps to change the negative voices in your head for the better.
Now let's talk about how social media affects our personalities and emotions.
So along with like social media and some voices behind our personalities, they're all both like effects that come off of this. They can either be positive or they can be negative, but we're going to focus on, I guess, like how they can help and how they can also harm. Having social media can like change our personalities.
And it can change our perception on whether those personalities are good or if they're bad, and
Right.
seeing what personalities are more appealing to other people.
Right. Like, are these voices, are they truly bad, or do they just not fit in?
Yeah, that's so good. I know that is really like I can't explain like how good that question is because do these voices just not fit into this idealistic version of yourself, the perfect version of yourself, you know? And these voices that you think are bad, they could actually be your true personality, your unique personality, trying to break out of that mold, trying to break out of that perfect mold.
And so over time as well, as like as a person, we change and we mature and we become a better version of ourselves. And in a way, these voices can change. So like along with personalities too, like you may become like, I guess, more responsible over time, or more dependent upon other people, or maybe more independent.
And it's also
But
based off of where you are at that point in your life. If you need to be dependent on other people, your personality is going to change to where you are more dependent. It's just all about what circumstances you are in at that moment.
right, right.
Um, so what I just want to raise this question. So what actually triggers these voices? These personalities. So like some personalities are louder in let's say specific situations. What causes these voices to be louder?
So, and so I guess like how I kind of take this too is like, so like in different situations, like they spike, like some things spike. So like you may have like an emotion that's tied to like your personality, of like being like, you may have some anxiety or be fearful of some things, and that may be that may spike in like a situation where you're not like comfortable. So it's like, let's say maybe you have like an athlete who's so comfortable on the field, and like that is like all they do, right? They may be like a soccer player and like all their friends are in soccer, and then you may put them in a like a maybe like a really big party, or like
Or a
some like
public
really,
speaking situation.
right, or some really professional event. They may not feel comfortable being around all those people that they don't know, that's not just with the people that they do know, because that may not be who they are. So those sometimes can spike their different like voices and personalities, is when maybe you're uncomfortable or in a different situation.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there.
So with all of these like harms and stuff, we also have to think about there's also some positives to society and social media. They kind of keep, I guess, our life in a positive way too, because when you look at social media, posts may inspire you, or maybe like, I guess, motivate you to be something
Yeah, that's
more.
so true. I can't even
And
count how many times I've seen something inspiring or positive on social media.
right, and in life, it's so important to have that balance. So as we are talked about the help and harm, we also need to realize that there are positive things.
There's good sides and bad sides to every situation. And I think it's really important to realize that and to really try and focus on the good side. We would like to describe some of the characteristics that are connected to our voices and personalities.
Some examples of these are caring, daredevil, leader, introverted, extroverted, follower, being a hater towards yourself, self conscious, fearful, anxious, and many more. So for me, my hater towards myself looks like someone from Greece, the Scorpions. So, like with the leather jacket and just like not like negative, I guess, for like my mindset that I try to have on life.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
they kind of have like a red lipstick, red tight outfits, like the real baddie, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my person would look like for hating towards myself. But also, a part of myself wants to be that type of person, you know? That
Yeah.
that person also kind of correlates with my daredevil side. I want to be that girl riding the motorcycle. My daredevil person has that jacket, has that lipstick, and will do anything. She's carefree, you know?
Yes, definitely. That's really a very cool, I guess, way to see some of our voices, is even though they may be opposites of ourselves, it's crazy to think that like there's still little parts of us that may be like that, or like maybe like there's like voices in our heads that are negative, maybe, who we aren't, but who are trying to affect how we see ourselves.
Yeah. There's also some good parts of ourselves too, like being caring.
Mm-hmm.
My caring person is kind of like Snow White almost. I just want to
Yeah.
be that girl who's still strong, but she cares for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a motherly instinct. Like, I want to take care of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make sure everybody's okay before I make sure I'm okay.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
definitely, I understand that because it's like, I don't know if it's just like, just how we're raised, but I definitely understand that how it's like we need to look out for others before ourselves. But speaking of characters in movies, that kind of ties into my anxious person. So like, I don't know if anyone has watched the Inside Out movie, but my anxious person looks almost exactly like fear. So that person who's always like on edge and like making sure like things that are going around like scare them. um and so that kind of goes, yeah, fearful and anxious, and that kind of ties to my creative personality. Like whenever those voices kind of get louder in specific situations, I find myself like going back to my personality of being creative and wanting to, like, I guess, immerse myself in art where I can just be myself and kind of calm down and get rid of those anxious voices. um, so yeah, so like I guess if anyone's watched the movie, they know that fear kind of is not very good for the main character, but it does keep her other emotions in check.
Yeah, that's so good. I know for whenever I get fearful and I get anxious, I always go on a run. I'll sort through my thoughts, and my introvert itself is just kind of like a book nerd, kind of likes to stay in the library. But it's kind of weird because I am more of a social butterfly, or an extrovert. But I do have that introverted side of me where I like to be in the quiet. I like to be by myself, and I like to think through those things. I like reading. I like doing all these things that would go along with being introverted.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I definitely get that. One thing about like being, I guess, in like at home a lot more than I'm used to is that like I've noticed that I find myself like always being around people. Like my parents are like on FaceTime, and like sometimes it's like really nice just to like, kind of get away and just be like in a room by yourself where you're either like watching TV or reading a book. Like Ella had said, it kind of helps you like reboot, even though like you may not see yourself as being introverted. It's really interesting, like during times like this is like you're really starting to learn more things about yourself like that.
yeah, another thing, so introverted and extroverted, we both have those personalities and they contradict each other, but we still have them.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that we have that contradicts is we're both leaders, but we're also both followers. And everybody, like, I just want to make this clear, like, some of these, like, adjectives and voices, you have more of some of them than others. That's what makes you unique.
While we were describing these people, we ask you guys, or if you're in a place where you'd like to take a moment to imagine like what these voices in your head look like and what they are and like the feelings behind these voices, and know that any feeling is okay and you just need to name it and make sure it's there and don't take shame to it.
We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you have any title ideas for our poems that we shared at the beginning, please DM us on Instagram at GroovyGirlsPod.
Remember to embrace everything that you are and just be yourself. Your emotions, personalities, voices, and thoughts are unique and truly represent who you are.
Peace out!